Today on The Rock Newman Show, it was 1970. No one expected a historically black college to gain any attention in collegiate soccer, much less reach the top of the N.C.A.A. But that is exactly what Lincoln Abraham Phillips did at Howard University. He's here to tell us how. That's coming up on The Rock Newman Show. Welcome to The Rock Newman Show from the campus of the greatest college in the history of the universe, Howard University, located right here in the nation's capital. I'm Rock Newman, and it is my desire to inspire you with personal stories and extraordinary achievement. It's 1970, and Howard University taps Lincoln Abraham Phillips to coach its soccer team. In the span of one short year, he builds a championship team that wins the N.C.A.A. Division I title, becoming the first historically black college to ever do so. Lincoln is here today with his son, Sheldon Phillips, who is Secretary General of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. Guys, welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining me. You know, I have a big smile on my face, and in the spirit of transparency, I think as I sit here in this seat, I'm supposed to be a very objective observer and one who tries to just cultivate answers from guests. I'm a groupie. Pardon me. Let me start here. The civil rights era is the backing for this story of a black college soccer team who played their hearts out to overcome racial injustice in the 1970s USA. Stocked with some of the best Caribbean and African players of the era, the Howard University Bison went on to win 2 national championships under the martial discipline of Coach Lincoln Tiger Phillips. That's on the back page of the book. I'll hold the front page up, the cover of the book up. If you're able to see it closely, this is Lincoln Phillips punching away a ball over the crossbar, and right here down in the corner, number 10, perhaps the greatest soccer player in the history of the universe, Pele, rising above and beyond the crossbar, the life story of Lincoln Tiger Phillips. Just recently, you launched this book at a celebration here at Howard University. Some of your All-American players who went on to become professional players were in attendance to see the camaraderie that existed and the kind of athletes that emanated from Howard University under your tutelage some 40 years later. This is the 40th year celebration of the 1974 championship team. Coach, job well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
Tell me, when you were amongst those players and felt the warmth in the room, many from your team came back to join that celebration. If you could share the experience of how you felt when that happened.
It was really overwhelming. And I wondered if I would be able to go through the evening without breaking down, because that journey was like a roller coaster. You know, we had great times, we had triumphs, and then we had defeats, and we had one championship was just snatched and taken away from us. You know, when we fought hard and won it on the field, and it was taken away from us, you know, because of some little monkey things.
So you're talking about 1971. 1971 America, folks.
Yeah, and go ahead.
No, I'm going to say 1971 America. The Howard University N.C.A.A. champions. And then it was taken away. Why was it taken away? What's the claim as to why it was taken away?
What happened, I think a lot of coaches were very jealous. You know, we're in the civil rights period, and they were quite jealous of of Howard University, especially in the area, Maryland University and Naval Academy. They were the kingpins in soccer around here. And then we came out, just like, out of the blue and took over and just beat the living daylights of everybody, no fluke or anything like that. We beat them.
Yeah.
And folks were jealous. And the NCAA rules at that time, it was so very vague. It has cleaned up a lot. That if you look into any program, you're going to find something. And they felt there are about 100 and something infractions, and I don't know where they got them from. But 2 of them stuck. And the SAT test, several of our players did not take the SAT test. And from Africa and the Caribbean, anytime a student who has an advanced standing from his high schools, you're doctors and you're lawyers.
Yeah.
So Howard University will always exempt them the SAT because they will get advanced 30 credits and so on. So we did not exempt them the SAT to have a soccer team. We knew that they were our best students. So since it was the law, okay, that's one of the things they, so it was as ridiculous as that. But anyway.
So I'd like to ask you, you have the euphoria. Wide World of Sports used to say the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. Lord have mercy, you had that. You had that thrill of victory. Obviously, you're elated. It's the first time that a black college has ever won a national title. When you learned that administratively, you won it on the field, when administratively it was taken away from you, take me to that moment.
It was tough. Leo Miles called me in the office and he relayed the message.
Leo Miles, who was the athletic director at Howard at the time. Yeah.
I just sat down there and for one moment and then I just started to cry. I was in the country just 3 years and I really didn't understand a lot of the things were going on in the country and I couldn't understand why. And I just cried and cried. And, Rock, family is a good thing. Family is great. And this has really helped me out through the years. And I went home, I was all down, and the first thing, Sheldon is my eldest son, and he was about 10 years, and the other one was 9, Sean. The first thing they did is to run and give me a flying tackle, a football tackle, and had me on the bed, and we were just wrestling. And it just took away everything. And after that, I said, you take that away from me, okay, we are going to get it back. And that was in my mind. I wasn't thinking about any racial this or racial that. The one thing I had in my mind, the next time that we become eligible, we will win. And that's what I had in my mind, and I thank God that I had that disposition, not to say, well, why me, and just brood over little things, It just lit the fire in me, and I was able to transmit it into my players. My players and the whole of Howard University was just mad,
Sheldon, let me ask you. So, you're walking around schools, elementary school. My dad just won the national title. My dad is the baddest dad in the whole wide world. And then you find out that it's taken away. If you could go back there.
Actually, at that time, we were in Trinidad, living, so we were back and forth, by the time school rolled back around. So it really didn't dawn on us. We still weren't old enough to really grasp the magnitude. What we did remember, what I remembered very firmly was those 73, 74 seasons. How it was a season of there was some sort of mission, and it was important. You can just sense the players and the staff, and of course my father, really gauging very seriously, towards the preparation of the season. I'd never really seen them that geared up. So I knew something was special about the 74 season. But when the 71 decision came down, which was I think in 72, we really, I don't think we were old enough to really, appreciate it. And we were, I think, far enough removed socially. So we didn't have to deal with anybody, in school saying, what happened?
Okay. Lincoln, obviously your journey and this book begins in a rather impoverished area in Trinidad. Take us back.
Well, Rock, in 1941, when America, on the 4th of July, when America was enjoying its Independence Day, I was born.
That's really taking us back.
I was born. And the Americans had just occupied the northwest peninsula of Trinidad as a naval base. And the Americans had done a wonderful job, dealing with the infrastructure and so on. So everybody in Trinidad just liked the Americans. And my mom, heard about Abraham Lincoln and so on, and she called me Lincoln. I don't know if she knew something or what, but it maybe just a coincidence. And we lived, with my grandfather and parents and 4 or 5 kids, and we about 5 of us slept on one bed, and when rain fell, the roof would leak, and my mother would get a container and make sure she's catching the water, and we slept sound. We were not poor. We were not poor. We were broke. Poor is permanent. Broke is temporary. Yeah. And I remember my sister always wanted to be something. My brother always wanted to be something. I wanted to be a cricketer. So we always aspired to be something. So fast forward a bit,
Lincoln, hold on. You say fast forward a bit, and I want you to get there. But I want to stop you in the process, because at the top of our show, we say that we want to give people examples of inspiring story. And sort of the further tagline is making the world a better conversation, making the world a better place, one conversation at a time. So I kind of want to freeze frame for a moment for our listeners. Tell your children to come around the TV set here. Lincoln just told you about being broke and what that meant, that is temporary, and that he and 5 of his brothers and sisters lived in one bed, and that the mother would catch the rain when it came through the roof. Please continue.
Well, Mom was, she had about 3 jobs. She worked 8 or 4. She was a maid, and some white folks from England, and she was a maid, and she would work a second job, and she'd work a third job, and she'd come back in midnight, And during the holidays, I would go up to a big savannah, and I would sit down there for the whole day, and she would come in and she'd give me a sandwich, and she'd go back to work. And the lady she worked for, Mrs. Seagard, found out that I was staying there by myself, and she was mad with my mother. And so she made her bring me over there and said, he has to stay here.
Bring you over there where your mother was working.
Yeah, and she asked me if I was hungry, and this blue-eyed lady, blonde, she hugged me, Rock, and it felt just as good as my mom. She loved me for whatever reason, and so I believe that I associate white folks, with love. There was never any animosity there. And then we had other situations with the Indians. We have a lot of Indians in Trinidad and so on. And I played for one of their cricket teams, and I was the only black guy on this Indian team. And I remember my dad saying, looking at the picture and saying, what's wrong with this picture? You're the only black guy on this picture. And he didn't like Indians. Didn't like. And I felt at 15 years of age, my friends, Dad, they like me and I like them. Yeah. And I started to cry because I knew that if he said, don't play with the team, I'm not going to play. Right. And my mom gave him one of those looks, as if to say, you must be kidding. You leave the boy alone. And fortunately, he left me, and I played with the team. And I believe I got to find out a little later on in life that what was happening there was the development of cultural intelligence. I was told about that about a month ago. And cultural intelligence is that ability to understand and appreciate people of other cultures, other races, and so on. All of that was playing in my growing up, you see. And as a result, when I got into high school, I got into different teams and so on. I was always able to deal with the players, deal with the players around me. Everybody liked playing for me, playing with me. So I became captain. And then I became coach. And that led to everything, you know. And when I came to the United States.
Well, before you get here, before you get ahead of yourself, so you're there in Trinidad.
Yes.
There are anecdotes in this book that you and your brother got in trouble a time or two. Let's pick a couple of morsels out there, because when this show is over with, I want folks not just to know that you won two national championships. I want folks to know Lincoln Phillips. So pick out a couple of those morsels.
One of them, I said my mother worked, you know, and she'd come home late at night.
Yeah.
And I mean, in Trinidad, when it's late, I mean, it is really dark, you know, no lights or anything like that. And I had one of my mentors, a Chinese guy. I used to go over at his house to get a meal and so on. And he was very good to me. But we felt, my brother and I, my older brothers felt that, you know, Mom needs to have a garden. You know, the yard is there like a desert, and we need to have a garden. So we dug up the garden, put a nice hedge and so on, and we had 2 donkeys, so we had fresh manure and so on. And when we were finished that day, you know, we decided, well, you know something, we need to get flowers. I said, well, over by Mr. Clifford has a lot of flowers. Yeah. I didn't think of stealing the flowers, but they were over there and we needed them. So we had to wait till late the night to go and steal 60 jubers. So that means a lot of jubers, different colors. So we used to see a lot of war pictures and so on, commando pictures. So we went under one person's house, under another one, came up the side of the wall, you know, ninja style, you know, dug up. We had to dig up the plants very easy because she's upstairs, the person's upstairs. And we planted them. Next morning, we decided, well, we want to wake up and see my mom's face.
Yes.
When she came out, her eyes were open, big. It came out the socket. The blood was in the veins. That meant somebody was going to die. Literally. She said, you know, and when people, the old people, when they get mad, they enunciate, you know, way, and the mouth was curved down. And, oh, Jesus, and we know we're going to see Super Goodman. So I'll tell you about Super Goodman in a minute. And she said, get these plants back. So I went over by Mr. Clifton. His mate came and said, Mr. Clifton, somebody stole the plants. He said, do you know where those plants are? Well, I got dumb. I said, I don't know. You know? So we had to wait till the night before we steal back the plants. Right? So we went through a reverse now. We steal back the plants. Next morning, my mom came in. She said, come here. You know, and she gave us a hug. She said, I knew what you tried to do, but that's stealing. If you don't, if it does not belong to you, and you take it without your permission, it's stealing, and you know the police will come and take you away from mommy and daddy. And we were scared of that, so he said, that is stealing. So I learned that. She hugged us, but we had to run back now, and Mr. the maid said, Mr. Clifford, come quickly. The plants came back.
You know what? The commercial police are tapping on my shoulder right now, and we're going to take it to break and come back with championship coach Lincoln Phillips and his son Sheldon.
The station reflects our community in all of its diversity. In its programming for news and art and culture, I celebrate this marvelous local resource, Howard University Television. This is Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. I support WHUT because WHUT supports our community.
Become a WHUT member today and let us say thank you. With a generous gift of $50, you'll receive a WHUT color change digital alarm clock. With a $70 gift, you'll receive a WHUT water filtration sport bottle. With a $100 gift, you'll receive a WHUT e-reader holder and membership card granting you benefits like 2-for-1 meals in the local DC area. With a $130 gift, you'll receive a WHUT blanket, matrix cooler, and a WHUT membership card. And with a $190 gift, you'll receive all of the above. Call us today to find out what you'll receive with your generous gift. Join thousands of your neighbors in saying that public television makes a difference in your life. Become a member of WHUT, Howard University Television, today. Please call 1-866-900-WHUT right now.
And there's a rumor circulating that is scandalous.
Oh no, what's that?
And I need to clear it up. I
Okay.
think I know the answer.
Didn't sleep with the president.
Well, here's what I'm going to ask you.
Okay, all right.
How old were you when you first had your first real kiss?
Oh my God, I don't know. Okay, let me be like I'm in a hearing on Capitol Hill. I can't recall.
Folks, welcome back to the Rock Newman Show. My guest this hour, Lincoln Tiger Phillips and his son, Sheldon Phillips. Sheldon is the Secretary General of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association, and Lincoln is a championship-winning coach from Howard University who took the Bison to 2 national titles in 1971 and in 1974. And as it was revealed and spoke of at the launch of this book, Rising Above and Beyond the Crossbar, the life story of Lincoln Tiger Phillips, this was in an America where when they went to play some of the teams, the administrators at the school, athletic director, coaches, or whoever it might have been, would not allow your players, I just want to set the time, would not allow your players to come in and change their clothes on more than one occasion.
It happened. Again, it's different times, and it did happen. But what that did, it lit the fire.
Yeah.
It inspired us.
Yeah.
And I remember telling the players, you see what they're doing to you? You see what they think of you? And the Jamaicans in particular, Jamaicans are a different breed. You know, they would fight. You know, they would fight. I said, all right, don't let them get you mad, okay? You know what you have to do to get back at them, score.
Yeah.
And then when you're going to tackle a player, just make sure it's within the laws of the game, but rock them up.
Okay, look, before we went to break, we learned that you were a rose and tulip thief.
No,
I
acquired it.
We also heard a little bit about Super Goodman, and hearing the stories just recently from your players and people who have known you for a long time, I can't do this interview without having my audience to understand and get introduced to Super Goodman. Talk to us about Mr. Goodman, please.
Mr. Goodman was he kept us straight. It was long like this, a piece of leather strap, and my mom, all she had to do was to mention Super Goodman, everybody'd straighten up. And I'll tell you why they'd straighten up. You never get 3 hits with Super Goodman, it's always 2. The first one, when you get hit with Super Goodman, your entire nervous system says, damn, what the hell is this? You know, it goes into shock, so you freeze. And the next one says, get out of Dodge real fast. So you could never get a third one. And you would remember it because it would be swollen, you know. So people, we decided after a while, this Super Goodman, it was up on a nail hanging there, you know, as a reminder, you know, that anytime we pass, you know, you just better be good. And my brother and I decided, listen, the days for that are over. And we got together and we cut Super Goodman in 35 pieces.
And how old are you now?
Yeah.
How old were you then?
I am 9 years of age.
Okay.
My brother is 12.
Okay.
And I remember one time we got into trouble and she said, Super Goodman, and we just started laughing. No more Super Goodman.
Because you only cut it in 35
we cut
pieces.
it in half. Yeah. So those were the days in growing up. My folks were well disciplined, you know, and I'm very fortunate to have grown up, you know, with a family with my grandparents, and just about about a week ago, and I said in my speech last night that he picked how strong my family was. This friend of mine gave me a quotation from the Bible. He said, "Blessed is the man who has in his quiver his children and his grandchildren." He's a rich man, you know. And I feel rich because of my family, and I have my grandkids, and my little grandson calls himself the young tiger, and I have a little 6-month-old granddaughter. She kisses me up for the whole day, and another five-year-old granddaughter, and I'm just in heaven. And coming out there last night and seeing my friends and seeing my family and everyone together, it was just a wonderful, wonderful moment.
Lincoln, I do want to go back, because part of what fascinates me is at what point in a person's life they determine who and what and how they want to be. And so as a child in such broke circumstances as you talk about it, what was your dream?
Well, I don't know if I had a dream, but I was around 9 years of age. I would go over by Mr. Clifford, Chinese guy, and he's a handsome man, handsome gentleman, and his wife was pretty, and he used to hug her a lot, you know, and he used to kiss her on her neck a lot and so on, and damn, she liked it too, you know. She used to smile, and after he left, she would still be smiling, you know. And you know, I said I like that because my dad, you know, never lived at home, and I never saw those types of exchanges
Of affection.
Yeah, yeah. And I said to myself, and when I get older, I must get married. I must. And I was 9 years of age, and I got married, and I had a wonderful wife, and I was in the same house with my kids, and my kids, you know, hung all over my neck and rode on my back, and I think that is, you know, inspired me to be a family man.
Sheldon, you're the victim of some of those hugs and nuzzles and licks.
Yeah. The first thing to get, we had four of us, 4 boys, very close in age. So we were never too far away from my parents and certainly Dad. So that's where our first model, first heroes were our parents. And then from the standpoint of soccer, that was always around us. So that description, I'm just playing in my head, those memories of us wrestling, and just playing around. I mean, it was really almost an older brother type of relationship as much as it was a father-son relationship.
And for you, if you had to choose one, what message or lesson did you learn early on from your dad that you feel had the greatest impact on you?
Wow. I think work ethic. Just, whatever, if you want something, just bite down and work as hard as you possibly can and never let somebody else outwork you. And you'll stand a good chance of getting it. I think as I got a little older too, and you look back and you go through your own trials and tribulations, looking back and seeing what, my folks did in raising 4 boys, under, trying circumstances. Sometimes he would referee, games in freezing weather while he was coaching and going to school. And I would, reflect upon those things and then look at my situation as it was then and just almost be embarrassed about complaining. So, actually having, seeing them experience some of those things those were some of the messages, both, express messages and just, them modeling it that really stuck
So Lincoln,
with me.
part of what you share here in the book is, your involvement with Trinidadian military experience. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, I couldn't see myself as being a soldier. And at the age, I was 20, I just left school, and, a sharp youngster with a flat top and all that stuff. And, God sends people to you. People come into your lives, and they don't come in just by happenstance. They come in. And I was going to a cinema show one night, and this guy was attending his garden, and he said, Lincoln, can I speak with you for a moment? I said, okay. What are you doing with your life? I said, well, I don't know. What do you want to be, 4 years from now? And he said, what about joining the army? Make a long story short, the officer came and saw my dad, and I joined the army. And that was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And they told me if I were a good soldier in training, I have a very good chance of going to England and becoming a physical training instructor. That's a big title in the army. Right. So I went in the army with that express intention of being a great soldier, a good soldier, so they don't have to give me any help. And I got it. I became they sent me to England. I did very well. It was difficult to meet the cold for the first time. It was very difficult, but I knew I was married. I had my son in Trinidad. I really couldn't let them down, and I did well there. And
did you think you did well and you excelled because you were a multifaceted athlete? This book, again, your book details. You played all the sports.
Yes. When I was growing up, I was an all-rounder. Rock. I was not good in every sport. I was terrible in every sport, and that worried me. Now in Trinidad, sports will come in seasons. Well, one part of the year is football season, cricket season, basketball season. And if you didn't play, if it was cricket season and you didn't play cricket, you'll be a social outcast. And so everybody played different sports. And if you're a good athlete, you'll be excellent in one and you'll be excellent in the other and very good in the other. And so that happened. I played for my basketball team, the national team, before I did so in football. And I was well on my way to playing for the national team in cricket. And so I trained hard, I played my heart out and so on. But that really assisted me as a goalkeeper, as a player, because of all the other things that I did, all the different sports really helped me to excel, especially in goalkeeping.
What prompted you to think that at this point in your life, you wanted to put your life story in print?
Well, Sheldon thought, Sheldon is grown up now and so on, and he thought, he said, Dad, you should write your life story. He started to write it, but poor guy, he said that, whatever, he had to go to law school so he could handle it, and it just died. And then Trinidad and Tobago qualified for the World Cup in 2006, right? 2006. Yeah, in Germany, and I was the technical director at Trinidad and Tobago at that time. And we were on the bus, and one of the guys who had written an autobiography of Jack Warner, he gave me a signed copy, and he said, when are we going to do yours? I said, early. He said, well, when we get home. And when we got home, he said, Link, what about the thing? I said, what? He said, the book. And he said, well, when can we meet? He said, well, we could meet Saturday. It was Friday. It was Friday the day before. And we met, and, we met every Saturday, and then it started to get exciting. He was an excellent interviewer. And after a while, I started apologizing. I said, I'm talking too much. He said, no, I'm taping it. He said, you talk as much as you. And he was skilled in just bringing things out. Yeah. And things started to come back. And he picked out of what I was saying a lot of great things that I didn't know about myself. Yeah. And then when we got to the part about Howard, he closed. He said, Link, this book is bigger than you. He said, this is the civil rights, Link. He said, I got to come up to Howard. I have to see the dressing room that you're all in. I got to see the tunnel you're running out of. I got to meet some of the people before you came to Howard, after. And he came up and he got an earful. And it's from there it took off. And he was a journalist. And so I left Trinidad and I kind of died. And Ian Bain saw the transcript.
Ian Bain, one of your former
one of my
players.
former players, captain. He said, hey, Coach, I was with you for a long time, but I never realized there's so much about you. You're growing up and so on. And he got together with Sheldon, okay, and he started talking, and he said, they decided that the book should be written in the first person. And they got a young writer named Robert Clark. And Robert Clark really did an excellent job.
Okay, I know that this here, it's like, I'm getting ready to ask you a question that is like asking a parent who's your favorite child. But if you had to pick one chapter out of this book for someone to read, which one would it be?
I would say the Howard University era. Okay, and it had 2 chapters with Howard, but I think that the chapter on Howard is just fascinating, because it takes you through hard work and it takes you through triumph, and then your victory, you're on top of the world, and somebody comes and wipes it off, wipes it your feet, under your feet, and then you're down there, and what are you going to do? See, the 2 worst times.
Hold it right there. You say, what are you going to do? Because we want to come back to this Howard break. Okay, so you were in the military down here in Trinidad, and you were going to go off to England. Talk to us in the time we have remaining in this segment about your first getting to the United States.
Well, Trinidad and Tobago national team went to the Pan Am Games. Okay, and at that time, the United States had just started their North American Soccer League professional, and they were recruiting in Caribbean and so on. And I did that. Trinidad won the bronze medal. We beat Colombia, we beat Argentina, we tied with Mexico. We were just outstanding. And I was approached, and eventually they sent down a scout, and as God would have it, he came in behind the goalpost, and I made 2 of the most brilliant saves I've ever made in my life. And so he got me up Baltimore base. And I came up.
Which was a professional soccer team just north of here.
That's right. And I met the team in Jamaica, and we started training and so on. And coming from the Caribbean, people, when you compare us with the Europeans, we still rookies. And the coach at the time, he wasn't bad. He wasn't a bad guy, Gordon Jago. He felt that I didn't have enough experience to play. So he got another goalkeeper. And I have never sat down on the bench. And I sat down on that bench for 25 games. And people were amazed how hard I was training, And what fired me up is if I had to go back home with my 2 children, I couldn't take it. And they inspired me, my children, my wife. And I just told the coach, that's okay, but the day you put me in that goal, I'm never going to come out. Right? And the day you put me in that goal, the first shot in the 2nd minute of the game, a goal was scored. And I nearly died. My hopes and my dreams, and my captain, I never forgot, he inspired me. And to make a long story short, I came back out, I rebounded and did well. And I was a starter from then on.
And you've done extraordinarily well. We're going to take a break and come back. And I want my audience to understand just how well you've done here on the Rock Newman Show at WHUT.
Hello, I'm Congressman Elijah Cummings. I salute WHUT for providing news and public affairs programming that uniquely represents, engages, and informs viewers. Whether it's local, national, or world events, WHUT keeps you connected to the issues of the day. Please support WHUT by calling the number on your screen. Thank you.
Become a WHUT member today and let us say thank you. With a generous gift of $50, you'll receive a WHUT color change digital alarm clock. With a $70 gift, you'll receive a WHUT water filtration sport bottle. With a $100 gift, you'll receive a WHUT e-reader holder and membership card granting you benefits like 2-for-1 meals in the local DC area. With a $130 gift, you'll receive a WHUT blanket, matrix cooler, and a WHUT membership card. And with a $190 gift, you'll receive all of the above. Call us today to find out what you'll receive with your generous gift. Join thousands of your neighbors in saying that public television makes a difference in your life. Become a member of WHUT, Howard University Television, today. Please call 1-866-900-WHUT right now.
When you're going through this process, what were you feeling?
Long story short, I feel like I have been found guilty and I'm serving my sentence, which is to have my refunds intercepted, but I was not allowed to have a trial to prove I was guilty.
Is Mary responsible for keeping 37-year-old records from her parent, from her siblings? I mean, that's crazy.
Folks, welcome back to the Rock Newman Show. My guest, Lincoln Tiger Phillips, championship-winning N.C.A.A. coach in soccer, and his son, Sheldon Phillips, who is Secretary General of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. Let me ask you, Sheldon, what impact do you feel that the championship teams from Howard University had on the Caribbean and in Trinidad and Tobago particularly?
Well, at the Howard University had always been a shining light in the Caribbean as an academic, the institution. I think what the championship did was create another element, another dimension where footballers from the Caribbean, from Trinidad and Tobago in particular, would now see that as the destination that you must go to if you want to play soccer in the U.S. and get your education at the same time. It was the perfect package. So as a result of that accomplishment in 71 and 74, you just started to see, I think, an influx of students, top students from the country, look to not only Howard University but also the Washington D.C. area to further their education, and then many of them ended up staying. So the large Caribbean population we have in the Washington D.C. Baltimore area, I think is really attributed to the program, the success of the program, and what Howard University as an institution meant to many people in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean.
Lincoln, Sheldon just used the word institution. There was an institution here, as we're talking about this, the institution at Howard University, for what seemed like, it was decades, but it seemed like centuries, was a small giant by the name of Ted Chambers. I don't want to go through this conversation and not have you to reflect on one of the Howard University athletic and academic giants, Ted Chambers.
Well, Ted, Coach Chambers, he was a saint. He was a saint. He was a great man, American, and he coached every sport at Howard University, every sport. And he liked fairness, and when the African and the Caribbean students came to the university, they did not have a sport to really relate to. So he started cricket and football. And the players would get a meal ticket and so on.
And when you say cricket and football, you mean cricket and soccer?
Cricket and soccer,
okay.
I'm sorry. Okay, and they would get a meal ticket and so on. So he meant everything to the Caribbean students. And some stories, he just knew when somebody needed help. I remember one of the players who reflected and gave his life story. He had 3 children and he was in med school, one of the former players. Yeah. And they were living in an abandoned house with 4 children. And one night they just was probably at the end of their at the end of their wits, didn't know what to do. Coach Chambers showed up. Okay, took them home, bought about 3 bags of pork chops, and they had pork chops for a week and bone soups for 2 weeks, and those type of things he meant to our players and the folks from the Caribbean. And the first time I met Coach Chambers, I was doing a clinic for the Washington Darts. he asked me to come and do something for Howard University. I did it. And right, just so we clicked. And the first day we were going to play a game, I got the guys together and I said, guys, I have a prayer I say, not for us to win, but for us to do our best, not to hurt anybody or get hurt. 121st Psalm. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help. And he said, that's my man. Because he had a prayer for everything. I mean, no, not from the Bible or anything like that. He would give you a prayer. And I remember we were playing Harvard in 1971. And we got together and, in our huddle just before we went out to the field to say this prayer. And he would say his first, and he went on and said some beautiful things. And in the middle of his prayer, he said, I never thought I would have lived to see Howard University, the capstone of black education, playing against Harvard, the capstone of white education, on the same field. I never thought I would see it in my life. And he just broke down in tears. And it felt tingling in your brain, and then I started my prayer, and there's no way we could have lost the game. And we won the 2 championships, 1971 and 1974. You know, yes, I was a coach, but it was Coach Chambers and I. Yeah. Coach Chambers and I. I'm hoping that if we get a stadium, if we get any big athletic institution, building or anything like that, I hope that they give him real consideration and name it after Coach Ted Chambers. A wonderful man, my mentor. He helped me with my education here at Howard. You know, when things were going bad, when I had 45 credits, I felt that I wasn't going anywhere. He would take me and he would talk to me, you know, bring me around and so on. And he did that with so many people, not only the Africans and the Caribbean, everybody.
I'd like for you to talk about, as the general on those teams, what you had to do is you had to mesh together. You had to meld people of vastly different backgrounds. You had Jamaicans, you had Trinidadians, you had Africans, you had Bermudians. Talk to me about the challenge and the triumph of those times.
It's challenging. As I said, only a couple nights ago I understood that what I had going for me was cultural intelligence. And it was because of my upbringing. Trinidad is a very diverse society. We have Indians, Chinese, whites, and so growing up in that kind of environment helped me with that. And I remember vividly after 1973, 74 was coming up, and I had from Nigeria 6 great players. Right? I knew if we got them with the players we had, we'd win the championship. Yeah. But to do that, to give all of them a full scholarship, I had to shave off some scholarship money off of the players. And when I gave out that, the Jamaicans came in with a contingent. Because, coach, this is not fair, and you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you. So I said, okay, you guys are right. Is it not fair? Okay? We lost the championship. If we bring these 6 players in, we win the championship. But you tell me what we want to do. If you tell me you want your money, I can only bring in 3. If you sacrifice and give up something, we win the championship. And I guess unconsciously I did that because I knew these players. I knew what they wanted. And the players said, oh my God, coach. How could you do that? Are you always doing these things, coach? You know, Mario McLean, and he would say, coach, you know we want to win, coach. Why you have to do that? I said, well, you know, I'm leaving it up to you. You tell me exactly what you want me to do. You say, coach, we want to bring the players. and that I realized was cultural intelligence. Uh-huh. I was able to know what folks from Jamaica, what these guys were thinking about, what they wanted. You know, and we were able to bring them together. The players came, and there was no problem. We won. But that 74 team was a hard team because we had a lot of good Jamaicans, a lot of good Nigerians, Trinidadians, and it was very, very hard. We had, I think, a little too many good players. So sometimes
It's a
when
good problem to have.
yeah, well, sometimes well, good and bad, good and bad, because sometimes when a player got injured, I said, okay, good, thank God.
You know what? I am, I'm frankly pleased to be having this aspect of the discussion, because oftentimes when the black community is looked upon as a monolithic entity. And here you are within the institution, within the university. These folks are all from the diaspora. They are all black, but different factions and different allegiances and different feelings that you have to manage beyond just managing the aspects of playing good soccer.
Well, as I said before, the diversity and growing up in a different in a country where you have so many different nationalities. But then when we came to the university, okay, the players, we were foreigners. And it was tough because Howard University at the time was very, we had a lot of different segments and so on. And eventually, as the players started playing and doing well, and they looked good on the soccer field, the girls started coming their way, and they started having them in parties and so on. And all of them were excellent students. And so some of the footballers and players, they looked at the soccer players, and they would help them in school and so on. So we started to melt in with the university. And especially when we won that championship, okay, it brought Howard University together. We had blacks from all over the place.
And it brought the city together. I happen to have been there then. Okay, here's what I want to do. I want to kind of march through the season in 1971 and have you to pick out, we've got about 5 minutes left here, to have you to pick out a couple of games or a couple of moments and take my viewers back to that 1971 championship season, a couple of your favorite memories.
Well, one of them was after losing in 1970, okay? We were getting ready to play.
When you say after losing in 1970, you lose in the playoffs or in the title game?
Playoffs.
In the playoffs.
We lost in the semifinals against UCLA.
Okay.
Now we're back in the finals in 71. Just at the hotel, we had a little team talk and said, one of our African guys named Olusegun Onadeko said, Coach, do you think you want to win this game? Sure. He said, send Ian Bain and Alvin Henderson to my room. So they go to the room, and they come back out, and Bain is watching me in a funny kind of a way, I said, what happened? He said, Onadeko gave both of them a banana each and told them to put it in their shoe, and do not take it out until they get into the dressing room.
Put a banana in the shoe.
A banana in the shoe.
Okay.
Okay, they went and played again. The game was hard, extremely hard. Bain scored a goal. I don't know how he scored it. Alvin Henderson scored a goal. I don't know how he scored it. But we won the game. Yeah. So the next game now was the final against St. Louis. So Onadeko comes and says, do you want to win this game, coach? I said, yeah, it's all right. When we get in the dressing room, I'll fix it. So when I got in there, he had a bunch of corn, grains of corn in his hands. Yeah. And he put six of them down in a zigzag formation.
Okay.
And I'm watching them and said, what the hell, what is this? The players had to step on each batch of corn. Right? And all the players are looking at me as if they say, coach, say something here, and I'm saying, well, he did all right here, he did all right. So the guys step, and just picture this, all these guys one by one going through. And at the end, I'm standing up like this, and you watch me as if to say, well, your turn. I'm saying, man, I'm a grown man. Yeah. I stepped through this thing. Yeah. Right? And we won the game, of course. And in writing the book, Ian Bain told me, Coach, did you put that incidents in the book? I said, no. He said, Coach, you must be crazy. Yeah. That's good. So I felt, voodoo and all that stuff. My son Sheldon told me, he said, Dad, what is the difference between the European voodoo and the African voodoo? The Europeans have a rabbit foot in their pocket. There's no difference.
Okay. Tell you what, we've got a minute and a half for you to tell my audience about the thrill of victory of 1974.
1974, we started the season, and under the slogan of a quote by Emerson, "Truth crushed the earth shall rise again." And that's the same year that Muhammad Ali got back his championship. And we rallied behind that. Every time we were down, which was very rare, we said the truth. The players would say the truth, especially the Jamaicans, the truth. And we got into the finals in St. Louis, and it was snow on the field, and we went into 4 overtime periods, and at no time the players felt that we were going to leave that field undefeated. They were so sure that victory, and every time things went against, they said the truth. And it's always about the truth and Howard and the mission that we were on. You know, it was just breathtaking, just breathtaking.
One of the things that I've learned with getting this gray hair here is when to shut up. You shut up when you've heard the truth and the real deal. So I'm going to shut up, Lincoln Phillips. I'm going to welcome you, Sheldon. Thank you, Sheldon. And thank you, Coach Phillips.
My pleasure.
God bless both of you.
My rock.
And that's going to be a wrap for the Rock Newman Show today. Thank you so much for watching.